but it being 7:15 or so, we're going to get this meeting to the Easton Conservation Commission order Monday, October 18th, 2021, in accordance with ongoing emergency order from Governor Baker to limit gatherings and maximize social distancing. This meeting will be conducted over Zoom. Attendance by board members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count toward quorum.
Recording in progress.
This meeting is being recorded by ECAT, and obviously we'll have audio and visual recordings available. To join the meeting, you click on the link in the upper left-hand corner. If you want to speak to any matter as a member of the public, just raise your hand or put a message in the chat box. Other than that, I think that pretty much covers all of that. As a matter of course here, we're going to take attendance by roll call. And so right now, to establish quorum, Rory Caulfield's present.
Carol Undine present.
Mike Spady present.
Thank you. Having 3 members, we have a quorum. Just as a reminder about efficiency, I'm going to limit hearings to 15 minutes or less. Please keep your discussion focused and on topic. I'll determine if we need additional 15 minutes or if all topics have been sufficiently covered. Additionally, as a reminder, any materials a commissioner, applicant, or member of the public presents during the public hearing that is not already part of the permit records should be provided by email to the principal clerk and agent following the meeting, so it can be retained for public record. And just one other thing is that on June 23rd, 2021, the commission voted to extend the delegation of signature authority to the environmental planner for decisions issued during the duration of the emergency order. I think that's it. Sped through that. Okay, so first item up is 138 Howard Street. This is a notice of intent for upgrade to a residential septic system and driveway replacement. And that's going to be Peter Lyons. I will promote.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hi, Peter.
I am here. Do we gotta do an introduction, or you want me to jump right into it?
So why don't you just introduce yourself for the record, and also note for the record that abutter notifications have been received on all the hearings for this evening.
Okay. Just gonna pull up the plan. Can you guys see that? Kinda.
A little small.
Yeah, here we go.
Thank you.
Let's see. All right, we'll start with this. All right, for the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group. We're representing the homeowner tonight for a filing relative to the repair of a failed existing septic system. This is on the east side of Howard Street. The bordering vegetated wetland happens on the southern portion of the property and then cuts through the backyard, being the eastern portion of the site. Starts in the woods and then kind of turns into the existing tree line once we get onto the subject property. The 50-foot buffer kind of cuts through the middle of the site, and the 100-foot buffer is out here, basically where our proposed work is. So the scope of work for this, we're replacing the existing septic tank with a tank and a pump chamber, and then installing a slightly elevated leaching bed in the front of the property. The general plan of this, you know, it's really the corner of the yard that is the farthest away from the resource area, without interfering with the existing water line. If we moved any closer, you know, to get further away from jurisdiction, we would ultimately have to move the water line. We only got a couple feet to play with as it is. So that's why we're putting it where we are. The system itself is proposed at 107 feet to the closest wetland flag. The tanks are just inside. It looks like it's about 95 feet to the wetland line. We have erosion control starting at the corner of the house and wrapping around the existing driveway. So that's going to encompass the work area, staging for the trucks and everything, as well as the excavation itself happening for the new system. All the work's being done in the front yard within the limits of the erosion control. We're proposing conservation posts along the existing tree line, basically paralleling the wetland line. There's a total of 6 posts, I see. Let's see what else. We have our erosion control details, including a new union detail we've been showing where the wattles tied together. Other than that, our standard notes, keeping the site clean, file number to be listed on site. Yeah, I guess that's a quick overview. I'll take any questions from the commission.
Jennifer?
Peter, did you just want to show us the vernal pool and explain what you're doing to the driveway?
All right. Let's see. Yeah, so the vernal pool occurs off-site to the south. We don't show the vernal pool itself on the plan, but this is the 100-foot resource limit to the pool, and then the 100-foot buffer to the resource limit. Correct me if my wording's off there, but yeah, 100-foot wording, 100-foot buffer to a potential vernal pool resource. Sure, so this is the edge of the resource itself, and then the 100-foot buffer to that cuts through the paved driveway. Speaking to the driveway, driveway to be replaced. It looks like it's going to be the same footprint. So honestly, I wasn't even aware of the driveway thing, but Jen, maybe you know something I don't, but it looks like they're just going to be replacing that driveway.
Okay, same elevation.
Yep, we don't propose any elevation changes. They might adjust the grading, minimally within a couple of inches just to get it back to level, but no significant grading from the looks of the plan.
Thank you. So I did the site inspection. The wetland boundary looks accurate. As Peter mentioned, the vernal pool is within the wetland area, and the vast majority of that buffer zone is already lawn, so there shouldn't be any impact. There's no additional clearing for that. If you look at wetland flag 14, it shows that some of the lawn is in the wetland area, so that should grow back, and then suggest moving that post that's right on top of 15 over into the middle between 15 and 14, so it's a little clearer to people. That's where the boundary is, and there's a lot of metals and compost and trash in the wetland. The commission can condition that be removed before they start work. You have draft order conditions that was in your packet if you're interested in that.
So should we be considering, this is a question for you, Jennifer, should we be considering any sort of grading on the driveway to have it drain away from the vernal pool, or should we leave it in its current condition? Do you have a recommendation?
If they're grading it toward the vernal pool, it's only going to be an inch or two, as Peter said, and any stormwater would go right into the grass and be filtered there. So I don't think that's going to be an issue for them.
Yeah, I mean, the driveway's pretty level as it currently is configured, so I'm not overly concerned by it. So yeah, they're not changing existing conditions. So I think maybe we'll just condition that it is to be no worse than it already is. So I think that's probably the best approach there. Yeah, I mean, Peter, the one thing on this property is that two things. One is they've got to let that grass grow back, and the message has to get to the landowner. That there's another one later on as a certificate of compliance that's coming up where we had a similar issue, where we had, as part of the conditions, had asked that they were mowing town property, conservation property, and we were out there checking it end of last week. I checked over the weekend, and they've been mowing it all this time, and they didn't even know. So I don't know how to ensure that the applicant gets told that in a manner that's something they can take action on. So I'm sure that at some point somebody gave them the condition, said, by the way, follow these 5 things, but I think we need to just make sure that that's an actionable item. I think that in cases like this where you have lawn right up against wetland, it's very easy to start encroaching in on the wetlands. So just as you guys are before us with 2 or 3 projects every week. So I'm having a conversation with you because you are more likely to have a positive impact in these type of things than maybe an engineering firm that comes before us once every 2 months. So I'm just asking you, as somebody who deals with these projects on a daily basis that have come before us, we've got to find a way to communicate these things to applicants. So
yeah. I mean, we will definitely in the future let them know. As you guys know, a lot of what we deal with is house transfers. So the current owner might know, but a year from now, the new owners, they might mow their lawn further than they think they should. So, as much as we try to keep everyone in the loop, our word of mouth only extends so far. But yeah, I mean, between what we say and getting it in the order, and
I absolutely am teeing this up for a conversation that Jennifer wants to have later on in this meeting. So,
okay.
So it is 100% agreeable that I think we need to do a better job with what those conservation posts mean and what they say, without getting to be intrusive on the aesthetic of the backyard. In most cases, it's the backyard, but I think that those are very, very astute comments. So I think we're good there. So, any other comments from the commission? Question? And that junk's got to get taken care of. I mean, there is a lot of junk sitting in the wetland. So, Mike, Carol?
No.
Any public comment on 138 Howard Street? Seeing none. Peter, I assume you want to close.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to close the hearing and issue a permit for work and order conditions for 138 Howard Street. Noting that between wetland flags 13 and 15, that should be allowed to grow back and should cease being mowed as lawn. We are going to request that you resubmit a plan having the posts medallions moved to be in the middle of that section, so that it's plainly obvious to someone that they should not be mowing there. Remove the extensive amounts of metals, compost, and trash from wetland flags between WF8 and WF16. I think one other thing is that the existing conditions of the driveway should not be changed to be any degrading to be any more than it is currently existing towards the vernal pool.
Okay.
It makes sense. Can you make that out, Jennifer? You understood what I meant, right? Okay. I need a second.
Maybe a second.
Speedy with a second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Okay. Mike, next one up is 358 Turnpike Street. do I need to bring up the applicant? Are they just here to observe? I will bring them up. They can decide whether to participate or not. Okay, Mike, you're up. Not Mike, Peter,
Here.
sorry.
Yeah, just bear with me, I'm just trying to pull the drawing up, I just X'd it out. Let's see. All right. Stretch this out a little for us. All right, can we all see what's going on out here?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, as mentioned, I believe we do have the property owner with us. I'll give a quick overview of the project, and then if you guys want to defer any questions to him, I guess we'll handle it like that. So again, for the record, I'm Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group. Here tonight, relative to a filing for a repair of an existing failed septic system at 358 Turnpike Street. This is an existing 2-bedroom home with a failed leaching pit in the back of the property. Kind of a busy site. We have wetland lines around the southern portion and wrapping around the backyard to tying in with an existing drainage basin and a stormwater area and outlet structures. Let's see what else here. The 50-foot buffer runs through the site right here and through the stormwater basin. The 100-foot buffer occurs towards the edge of the property or through the, yeah. So basically we're proposing a leaching field in the northwestern corner of the yard, approximately 104 feet from wetland flag 1. What we'll be doing is eliminating the leaching pit in the back of the property, rerouting the plumbing through the house and providing a new septic tank and a pump chamber to a 14 by 45 foot plastic chambered leaching system. There will be minimal change in grade over the proposed tanks as well as the proposed leaching field. The tanks in the field are outside of the 100-foot buffer. This is shown right here. And then across this way. Basically, we're shoving everything as far away from the resources as we can. We have a soil stockpile area out in front of the house, as well as a dewatering location shown on the plan and the detail for that down on the bottom. Conservation posts shown all over the place. We got 9 of them along the existing tree line to the south and around the backyard. And then additionally around a gravel parking area in the rear of the property. That's the quick overview of the scope of work as far as the septic is concerned. I'm sure the commission's gonna have some other questions out here as well, but that should get us conversation started. So if anyone wants to take over from that.
Jennifer?
Peter, do you want to just point out the riverfront area?
The riverfront area, sure. We have mean high water flags 1 through 14, it looks like, to the south here. So this is our riverfront, and then this is the 100-foot inner riparian line, and the 200-foot line falls just beyond the proposed work. So we are working entirely within the outer riparian limit. And that's the riverfront area.
Thank you. Yeah, so the site inspection was completed. The wetland and the stream are accurately delineated. I noted on the site inspection and in the staff report that there's a number of metals and trash and items that need to be cleaned up. And from aerial photographs, noticed an area in the back that's listed on the plan as a crushed stone storage area that seems to have changed without permits. We did meet on the site with the owner and Representative Collins Engineering. So they are aware of it, and we're coming up with a plan for how to address the trash and the violation. I would say it's, it's not really associated with the septic system. So if you wanted to issue that permit this evening, we can issue a separate enforcement letter so that the trash and the area in the rear would still be taken care of and that the septic system could move forward.
Okay. I guess, do we have a sense of how long the gravel area has been there? Maybe the applicant can tell us.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So I bought the property 2 years ago, and I own the property next to it. Originally, it was all one property. It used to be a junkyard. So when I bought 358, there is a fence separating the front section to the back section, and there is a lot of junk back there that the old owner left, and I cleaned up what I could. There are things right on the edge of the water that I left because they've been there for a long time. There's big trees growing, so I'm not going to cut down a tree to move something. But what I did was this back area was used originally for storage, so I just removed the brush. I followed the fence line because I assume it was used for that before. When I bought the property, I thought I could do the same thing. But during the site meeting, I said, luckily I own a dumpster company and a landscape company, so I can have my guys pick all the trash up, no problem. And then we were talking about coming up with a plan for the back section. So it's been like that in the state that it's at right now for a couple of years. Prior to that, I believe this property has been in the same was in the same family for a very long time. I don't know how long it was a junkyard for. There's stuff way out into the woods.
There's even a nice boat out there. It's in two pieces, but it's two pieces of a boat.
Yeah. Which obviously I would have pulled that out. There was also like a go-kart back there, and when I tried to actually pull it out, it just disintegrated. So and then with this year, the amount of rain that we've had, it's been wet out in the area that is the wetlands. It's been wet all year, but in years previous to this year, it pretty much dries out. So looks like this week's no rain, next week is no rain. If that dries out pretty good this week, I'll have my guys pick all the trash out next week.
Okay, one thing that I hope, Mr. Nastasian, you have a good reputation in town, and you work on a lot of properties.
Yep.
And one thing that I hope that you sort of take away your own experience here is that, is check before you start making substantial changes to the property.
Yeah.
Just to understand where it is in relation to the wetlands. It's actually something that we've been trying to find a way to communicate to property owners what those questions might be.
Yeah.
sometimes it's perfectly fine, and other times it's, well, hang on a second, we need to talk to somebody and figure out, and we need to come out and take a look at it. And so, I mean, you're probably on, hundreds of properties a year in the town of Easton, and and probably 50 of those have adjacent wetlands. So it's just the way the town is, as you know.
Yeah, no, I agree. If you, where that fence is, I guess I wasn't really thinking about it. I just assumed if there's a fence there,
Yeah.
because the fence is over 6 feet, which 6 feet tall, so I think you need a permit for that. So I just assumed that.
Yeah, the fence could have been put up without a permit too. So.
Yeah, I mean, with the condition of the house that was in when I bought it, I'm sure that there was a lot of stuff probably not done properly.
Right. Well, the house looks great, so I do want to commend you for that. So thank you for restoring the house to.
I am trying to make it look nice. The fence on my other property, it just keeps getting hit by cars between this year and last year. That and then with COVID, we can't get the parts for it. So next year, the fence will finally be replaced. But I will make everything look nice.
Yeah. The only other question I have is that, and I don't know how far over on the south side of the property, because your neighbor has a lot of stuff in there too.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that property line is and how much of that stuff is actually his, as opposed to what was left there from the prior junkyard era.
Yeah.
That might be something for us to sort of consider and make sure that as we work our way through this, that we have a conversation with the neighbor as well.
I believe the neighbor is a renter,
Mm-hmm.
and the person that owns it owns a fence company. My dad knows who it was because he talked to him earlier this year.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I do think some of there's a ton of beer cans in there. I am assuming that some of that is just from 138.
Right.
That's closer to the street, and then I don't know when the water fills up if some of it's floated down, but I'll have my guys go right through it and pick. For me, it's not a big deal. I'll just drop a dumpster there and tell them to fill it on one day next week.
Okay.
But yeah, the amount, I think I took 7 dumpsters out of there when I first got the property. So one more is not a big deal.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission? Questions? Jennifer, anything else to offer here?
Nope.
Okay, so I assume that we want to close, Peter?
Yeah, as mentioned, if we could kind of isolate the septic from, the cleanup portion of the project. Yeah, that is our intent.
Yeah, I think that given the discussions that have already gone on here with both you and the applicant and Jennifer, I think I'm comfortable with that. And the fact that there's the applicant is being agreeable to do what he needs to do, at least as quickly as he possibly can on some of these items. I think we're okay to move forward. So we do have a file number on this, right?
We do.
Okay. There's just a note in here that says need DEP file number. See it, file number. So make a motion to close and issue a permit for work in order conditions for the upgrade of the residential septic system at 358 Turnpike Street, noting that the trash tires, boats, oil containers, and other junk in the wetland shall be removed. I think that just one other condition here is that use of the ATV through the wetlands should cease, whatever that is. So,
I don't think that's their property though.
Yeah, that was a neighbor. That's not, I don't own an ATV.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I see them out there, I can say something to them. I have no problem with that.
Okay, well, good luck with that, Peter.
Thanks.
That goes very well, I can tell you.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you making the effort.
No problem.
I think that's it. So, I need a second.
Beatty, a second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, I.
Beatty, aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is,
Peter.
Me again.
yeah, you again. I'm just trying to demote Peter, the other Peter, so. Next up is 9 Hermosa Drive. This is the notice of intent for an upgrade of a residential septic system. It says and driveway replacement. Is that true?
No, that was the last.
Yeah, I think that might just be a copy error from the last one.
Fair enough. I agree. So this is simply an upgraded septic system.
Correct.
Okay, 9 Hermosa Drive.
All right, still Peter Lyons with Collins Engineering Group, representing the homeowner. What's that?
Still Peter Lyons.
I think this is my last one more. So another failed septic system. We have a bordering vegetated wetland line associated with a stream to the west of the property. Stream's pretty much a straight line. The offsets, the 100-foot riparian limit cuts through the existing house and the proposed septic system. The 50-foot buffer is the orange, and the 100-foot buffer is the purple line here. This is a pretty large leaching field due to the poor soils out here. It's never a good scene when the leaching fields is bigger than the house. So unfortunately, it's kind of an invasive one, but we're doing everything we can to keep it, maximize the distance to the resource areas. We are able to maintain 50 feet to the closest corner of the field. The tanks are more like 80 feet from both resource lines. What we're doing is replacing the existing tank with a septic tank and pump chamber to a large raised bed, a 31 by 52 foot pressure dose leaching field. Most of the work does occur in existing lawn. There's one tree and some smaller vegetation to be removed. Let's see what else. We have erosion control surrounding the whole project, including the excavation and the soil stockpile areas. The erosion control wraps right around the existing tree line and landscaping and encompasses the gravel driveway access point over here. There's some arborvitaes that will be removed to gain access around the back of the house. We don't have enough room on the right side. Let's see, there's a line of conservation posts shown on the tree line. Silt sacks in the catch basins out on the road. And so that's about it. Our standard sediment control details, dewatering pit details, and the wetland notes, as well as the post details. So that's an overview, and I'll take any questions.
So just before I hand it off to Jennifer, can you give us a little bit of an overview of this, the gravel drive and the previously existing metal structure that was there, that's right up against the
Yep, so
the stream?
I mean, I'll tell you what's out there. I don't personally know too much with the history or when that was all created. But basically, there's an existing metal garage, almost more like just a storage shed out in the back of the property with a gravel access driveway going out there. That is right up against the existing wetland line. I do not personally know, maybe Jennifer does, when that disturbance occurred. But I believe, to my knowledge, it's been there for a while. It's the same owners lived there for a bit, and it doesn't look recent to me. Jen, do you have anything else regarding that?
Jim, why don't you get us caught up on your side of things?
Yeah, it looks like it's been there a while, but the metal garage has been removed
Right.
for my site inspection. The wetland and the stream boundaries look accurate. There is a little bit of compost that was dumped near wetland flags 2, 4, and 12, and the gravel is right up against the wetland and the stream between F8 and F12. The homeowner was there when I did the inspection, and he's willing to pull the compost out of the wetland. And he said he was even willing to remove some of the gravel, a couple of feet back from the wetland if required. There's some old silt fence near the river too that could be pulled back up.
Yeah, I was looking at the same areas. I'd taken some photos because I thought especially that area there towards the rear of the property was pretty close to the stream and has had potential for erosion, and I'd like to see that sort of pulled back a little bit. So I'm glad that it was already discussed. I think other than that, I don't know that I had any other comments. Interestingly enough, usually in a piece of property where there's a gravel drive with a big storage shed and everything else, you expect to see a lot of other junk. There's stuff being stored on the property, but it is in good working order. So I don't want there to be an impression that there's just a lot of junk here. It isn't. It's actually well kept. Even the gravel drive you can see it's well maintained, which is unusual for a long-standing gravel drive, to be quite honest. So I do appreciate that portion of this. So, but as Jennifer said, the metal structure has already been removed. The only thing left there is a log shed that's got firewood in it. That's it for me. Any questions from anyone else from the commission?
Not for me.
None for me.
Okay. You guys are making it easy on me tonight. Okay, Peter, I assume we want to close.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we're going to make a motion to close and issue a permit for work and order conditions for 9 Hermosa Drive, noting this is for an upgrade of a residential septic system. I do have a DEA number on this. Was that on the probably on the published agenda? I think I might have an early version. I do have a DEA number. This is 1713. So
DEP?
yeah, is that right?
Yeah, no, you said DEA.
Oh my God, it's been a long day.
DEP, yeah. We do have a number, thanks.
Okay. And so just noting that the applicant will remove the compost near wetland flags 2, 4, and 12, and will pull the gravel back. Do I want to say number of feet?
It would be good to know the approximate number of feet.
3 feet enough?
I mean, it's certainly an improvement. Yeah.
Okay, so 3 feet between wetland flags 8 and 12. Also note the old silt fence should be removed.
Speedy second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Speedy aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
All right. Do I gotta stick around for the COCs or?
So, Jennifer, did you get any additional information on Gyro Lane today?
I did not hear anything else.
So we will not we will discuss 15 Gyro Lane. It is unlikely we would approve 15 Gyro Lane without additional information. I was out there Saturday and it was not in a condition that I could approve. So, and I think that given that I was out there, the commission would probably follow my lead. So so it's up to you whether you want to hear it. You can talk to Jennifer tomorrow or whatever you want to do.
Okay, I mean, obviously, we gotta be made aware of what needs to happen, so, either I can check in with Jennifer tomorrow, or I can hang around, and when it comes back up, I'll be here. Whatever makes
Whatever,
sense.
it's your preference, okay? Thanks, Peter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up Eric Diaz. Let's get a little pop-up window over what I need to click on. Okay, you're coming up, Eric. Oh, I didn't even ask about public comment on this. I'm not doing my job here.
Hello.
Hey, Eric.
Good evening, everyone.
So we are now on 81 Summer Street. This is a notice of intent for installation of underground utilities.
Yes, sir.
And I'll let you drive the boat.
All right. For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering Solutions, representing Garcon Corp. at 81 Summer Street. Very simple notice of intent, like you mentioned, we're before you for the installation of underground utilities under an existing driveway. So it's all temporary disturbance in areas that are already disturbed. But if you recall, we were before you not that long ago for a notice of intent at 91 Summer Street. And if you take the notice of intent plan for 91 Summer Street and you hold it up next to the notice of intent plans for 81 Summer Street, you're going to have a few questions. So if you'll indulge me for just 2 or 3 minutes, I think it makes a lot of sense to talk about what's different between the two and how we got from A to B here today.
You know I've got questions, Eric, so I'm happy to have you explain them to me.
I'm cutting you off at the pass. I know they're coming because I know you were out there. So let me share my screen and go through some of this with you, if you don't mind. Can everyone see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So you will recall, this is the notice of intent plan for 91 Summer Street. And what we proposed was this big long driveway through the buffer zone that ultimately ended up opening up to this big area of upland that we have here, where we were proposing one single family home. As a part of this notice of intent, we have a buffer zone restoration that has to move forward, which we acknowledge, and we're prepared to talk about where that stands. And we have a conservation restriction along the 50-foot buffer zone. It totals approximately 9 acres. It is written into the order of conditions, so that remains no matter what we do. If you're looking at this plan, 81 Summer Street is right here. Right at the time that we closed and issued the order of conditions, 81 Summer Street became available. So my client picked it up. And when he did that, what happens is here is that same big area of upland back here, okay? But now you can see there's an existing driveway that runs right up where my mouse is that services 81 Summer Street. So my client had the thought, what if we can subdivide 91 Summer Street to make better use of the upland area and use this existing driveway as a common driveway? So that's exactly what we did. We took to doing. We went to the planning board. Here are the special permit plans that we submitted to them. And the special permit is for both a common driveway to access the upland area here where we're proposing 3 lots and an estate lot. So all the disturbances that you're seeing in this area here are outside of buffer zones and Conservation Commission jurisdiction, and that's done by design. We're not touching buffer zones. We're staying in that area. We are utilizing the existing driveway that's there now to come up to this area. Now, the Easton zoning bylaw says that a common driveway can only serve 3 lots. So as a part of what we proposed is we're going to use this existing driveway to provide common drive access to the new 3 lots. And we're going to take the driveway that we had permitted all the way up to here, and we're going to pull it way back and use that to access 81 Summer Street. So right off the bat, that's a benefit because we're taking a couple 100 feet of pavement. We're getting it out of your buffer zone on 91 Summer Street, but we're still giving you the conservation restriction and your buffer zone restoration. Now, as we're going through this process with the planning board did a site walk, and we all took a look at this, and they said, well, gee, maybe there's a flaw in our bylaw in this case. Maybe because this driveway is already here, it makes more sense to allow you to access 4 units off the common driveway and eliminate the installation of this driveway altogether. So the planning board has actually suggested to us that we go to the ZBA to seek a variance to do exactly that. So what the variance would do is it would allow us to access 4 lots off a common driveway, and it would completely eliminate the need for this driveway that you see through the buffer zone on 91 Summer Street. In fact, the planning board is in a meeting right now, and part of their deliberation tonight is to send a letter of recommendation to the ZBA on this application. So if we were successful at the ZBA, what that would do would completely eliminate the buffer zone, the driveway from the buffer zone on 91 Summer Street, still give you the buffer zone restoration, still give you the conservation restriction. So it is a complete win for the interests of the Conservation Commission. The reason I say all this is threefold. 1, I think you need the full picture. 2, I'm hopeful that the commission would be willing to support our request to the ZBA, given that it is in the interests of what the commission is trying to protect. And 3, because it leads us to where we are tonight, which is for the notice of intent for the utility installation through the driveway on 81 Summer Street. Again, this is the notice of intent plan that we submitted. This is the driveway going up to the wetland area that we included on here just to kind of give the big picture. And then if I go to this next sheet that kind of focuses in a little bit more, this is the driveway. If you can see this, the hatched gray area here is the existing driveway. Is part of what we're being required to do for the 3 units that we're proposing for the common driveway is install this hydrant that's right here. In order for us to install that hydrant, we need to bring a 6-inch water main in, which we're proposing to bring right up under the driveway. And it only comes out of the driveway outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, still inside a little bit of the 100-foot buffer zone to the vernal pool, but it stays in disturbed lawn areas and gets us to the hydrant. The other utility that we'll be installing, there's a utility pole right here where my cursor is. We're going to come parallel to that in the driveway and trench in an electric, telephone, and cable line right up parallel to it. And again, when we get out of the 100-foot buffer zone, that will leave the driveway, go to disturbed lawn areas, currently disturbed lawn areas, and come over to a handhold that's completely outside of the buffer zones. So it allows us to come through, dig 1 trench, take the dirt, put it on the pavement, install the utility, fill the trench back in, pave it, seal it up so everything's nice and stable again, and then repeat the process on the other side. So we do have a very controlled excavation that we'll be doing to do this. There is not much of a vegetated buffer zone through some areas that you'll see here. For example, right here, the wetland line goes within 9.5 feet of the existing driveway. So we are proposing to install some sedimentation controls along the existing edge of woods. We did get some comments from Jennifer. We did respond to those comments today. I think she received hard copy at 4 o'clock. So I do not expect that she had an opportunity to go through those, but I think we did address most of her comments, and we're certainly glad to talk about any of them tonight. And I should just note that as part of this, just by default, we are seeking a couple of waivers. Those waivers have to do with the allowance of alteration of impervious surfaces and structures within the inner 50-foot no disturbance for disturbed lands. That's this area that you see right here inside the 50-foot buffer zone. And the other one is to allow alteration within 100 feet buffer zone of a vernal pool. And again, that is basically the whole driveway up to this point. But again, already currently disturbed. We're just disturbing mostly paved areas. Otherwise, it's already disturbed lawn areas. And I know we talk about, when we talk about waivers, we talk about public benefit. Obviously, and we've talked about this before, on single family homes, it's very difficult to provide a public benefit, but I would say an alternative to this would be to route the utilities through the buffer zones over at 91 Summer Street, which would be more detrimental by far than sticking with disturbances in the paved areas that we have here today. So that is a global overview. I'm sure there's a ton of questions. I'm glad to field them all.
Jennifer?
Yeah, thanks. So from the site inspection, the wetland boundary and the vernal pool looked accurate. Wetland Protection Act has an exemption for utilities within the existing driveway. So they don't actually need a permit from the state. So I don't know if you replied to that in your.
I did. We reviewed that section of the bylaw. We concur, so we're going to withdraw the state NOI.
There's an existing permit for that exact driveway that they requested a certificate of compliance for, that we'll hear at the end of the meeting. There were some plan revision requests that were made. Stream from an old permit that would be shown on there, add the posts and medallions and the dimensions to A109 from the road. Looks like you added that, the 9.5.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. There was a request to be treated as a limited project. Not a lot of people know this, but limited project is if it only comes up in two cases, right? You can't meet performance standards or you're above threshold alteration. Then you look on the list to see if you fit one of the categories, like the driveway. You don't actually need that limited project status because this is an allowable project. You're not above threshold and you're not, you're able to meet performance standards. So you have 2 trenches in the driveway. It looks like you're going to be messing up at least half of the driveway. Is there a thought to just redo the whole driveway when they're finished, or they're just going to leave those 2 patches in the middle of the driveway?
No, there is. In fact, we added it to our updated construction sequence. Basically, we're going to disturb half of it, put it back together, disturb the other half, put that back together, and then probably top course pave the whole thing.
Okay.
So it's seamless at the end.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually think that's probably better in the long run because it'll hold up better.
I think it will be too, yeah.
Okay. And then at the end of the driveway, did you need to do any tree clearing for sight distance? Everything's good?
Yeah, we're all good there.
Looked like right across from A109. Yeah, sort of in that area. There was some wetland vegetation there. Were you able to get somebody to go out and look at it?
Yeah, Brad Holmes went out and actually sent you an email today at probably 5:30, just saying that he looked at it. Obviously, I know you haven't seen it, but please, by all means, review it. The gist of it is he concurs there is some vegetation there, but the soils are not hydric, and he doesn't believe that there's an actual wetland in that location.
Okay, so he sent something for me to review.
He did, yes.
Okay. There's old silt fence along the edge of the tree canopy.
That needs to be removed. In fact, we added that into our construction sequencing, that at the end of construction, all of that comes out.
Okay. You have the 2 waivers that you requested. Yeah, that's it for me until I see the revised information you submitted today.
Okay, I guess, so if let's sort of separate this into a couple things. So I think that the plan itself is perfectly reasonable and with minimal disturbance. And so I think the way it's planned out right now is certainly, I don't have any questions about it. I think that the other half of this is if you get the variance from the ZBA, that 91 Summer, and it was actually the first question that I had to Jennifer, it wasn't even this week, it was a week before, I think, when I first saw it, that I said, this is linked to 91 Summer. And I want to make sure that restoration gets done. And I want to make sure that the conservation restriction that goes into place, on the acreage that we're supposed to get, or the conservation gift, I can't remember which one it is. I said, I want to make sure that those still stand. And so I'm hearing your commitment to that tonight. I mean, obviously, we can't make those changes to that, anything along that way, because you don't know what's going to happen with that driveway yet. So
That's correct. And the reason why we've at this point elected to hold off on the restoration to the spring is so we know what's going on with that driveway, right? If we're going to do the restoration, we don't want to be going through there after the fact with the driveway with more equipment to disturb things. So we want to know exactly what we're doing. I'm very hopeful. It looks very likely that we'll be successful at the ZBA because we do have a lot of support from the planning board on this, and it really makes sense in this case.
Yeah.
But yes, my client does acknowledge that even if that driveway goes away, he still owes you that buffer zone restoration and the conservation restriction.
Right. And Jennifer, I don't think I asked this before. Is there a way for us to condition that on this?
I'm actually just trying to figure that out now. I didn't do a draft set of conditions because I didn't have the response yet.
Yeah.
When is the ZBA meeting? Do you know?
Middle of November.
Oh, okay.
So we've got a little bit of time.
Yeah, we can come up with a condition for that. Because I'm assuming that we'll close at the next meeting. Does that sound right?
To me,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll need to condition it. We won't have an answer from ZBA first. Yep.
Any questions from the board? You're on mute, Carol.
I did, yep. So I just want to be double, triple clear. This is an existing driveway, is that correct?
This is an existing driveway. What you see on the screen hatched in gray is existing pavement today.
Okay, good, thank you.
Mike, you all set?
Yeah, I'm all set. That's a good give to get. So
Any public comment on 81 Summer Street? Seeing none. So I think that given the nature of the bunch of changes, as well as the information from Brad Holmes, I think that be in the best interest for us to continue to our next meeting, which is November 1st. And as I said, I don't think I think it's just a technical issue for us.
Sure.
I prefer not to condition all those changes without Jennifer having had a chance to review them.
Sure, I think that makes sense.
So given the nature of them just coming in so late in the day today.
Absolutely. What we had done, just for information, when we got Jennifer's comments, we focused mostly on the request for certificate of compliance because we didn't want that to hold anything up.
Right.
And once we got that done, we kind of focused on the other stuff. Can I ask a question of the commission? And Mr. Chairman, if you'll allow me, the planning board is, I believe, planning on sending a letter of support to the ZBA. Is that something the commission might consider doing as well? Granted, we have at least another meeting to think about this and make a decision.
So I think I'm in favor of this. My biggest challenge is I would like to keep it as brief as possible.
Sure.
Partly to keep the work on the staff down as brief as much as possible.
Understood.
But I think it also, in this case, brevity is actually going to be beneficial to you because it will be so direct and to the point that there will be no question about what our position is. If we have this, I'm expecting to have a brief conversation after this, where we can talk about what that one sentence might say. And so that would be my goal here, is to say that the Conservation Commission would prefer the single driveway at 81 Summer Street to service all 4 homes rather than having a separate driveway at 91 Summer Street is in benefit of the wetland and wildlife resources to not use that 91 Summer Street if we can avoid it. So we'll try and condense that down into one sentence so that we can easily get something over to the ZBA. And I just don't want to wordsmith it to death. That's my only concern. I don't want to spend all the time. Yes, I personally am in favor of that. Let's make a motion to continue this to November 1st first, and then we'll get to that. Okay. So a motion to continue 81 Summer Street to November 1st.
Spady second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Monday night.
Spady aye.
Just as a board discussion, I'm in favor of issuing a very brief that we would prefer a single driveway at 81 Summer Street to service those 4 homes as opposed to using 91 Summer Street, a new driveway, because it is beneficial to the wetland resources. I literally wanted to say just like that.
I was going to say, why don't you say that? It was great.
That's exactly what I wanted to say.
You did it. Done. There you go.
You could just send them a thumbs up emoji, and I think they'd be okay with it.
I only added to wetland resource protection. That's it.
Okay, there you go.
One word.
So is any discussion about this? We can take a vote on this so that it's on the record. So I make a motion to have the commission issue a statement of support of the variance for 81 Summer Street driveway to service 4 homes.
Spady second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Monday night.
Spady aye.
Excellent. Thank you all. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're up next.
Yes, sir.
19 Emily Lane.
19 Emily.
So this is a continued hearing, just for the record, continued hearing for notice of intent for construction of an in-ground pool, deck, shed, driveway, and garage.
Excellent. I believe Nick Carroll is probably in the audience as an attendee. I don't know if you want to bring him up or not. Carroll's got a hand up.
Absolutely. Didn't know he was connected to this project, but happy to bring him up.
Sure.
And Eric, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I will. For the record, Eric Dyes, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering Solutions, representing Rudy Dodgy on 19 Emily Lane tonight. So I'll jump into a quick presentation. The last time that we were here, we've gone through some pretty global changes to the plan. The last time that we were here, I think the commission made it, and Mr. Chairman, I think you summed it up very well at the end of the meeting. This is what we were looking at. Primary area of concern being the driveway through this area coming back to the garage being so close to the wetland. I mean, the edge of the driveway is within about 10 feet of this wetland. Required substantial waivers, and I think the chairman said it pretty well that he was having even a tough time seeing a path from here to approval on this. So we kind of took that to heart, went back to the drawing board a bit, and made some pretty global changes to this. And I'm going to share that plan with you now. This is what the revised plan looks like. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on the proposed area here. Can you see that a little bit better?
Yep.
So the applicants elected to keep the pool, keep the patio area around the pool, albeit to revise it as much as possible or as much as necessary to accomplish a different configuration of the driveway. The garage is still proposed, however, it's turned on its face. It was facing this way before, now it's facing this way. In the driveway, rather than coming through the 50-foot buffer zone here, very close to the wetland, he's proposing to come around the front of the house this way. We'll be installing a retaining wall on either side of it to make it work, and then wrapping it around the pool and into the garage. Now, a couple of things to note about this. My understanding is this garage is not intended for everyday use. This garage is intended to store cars or classic cars seasonally. So we're anticipating using this driveway a few times a year to get cars in and out. Additionally, if I scroll down, we've provided a detail of the driveway. And what we're proposing, I'm calling it a driveway. It's really kind of a cobblestone path. Rather than having a flat area of gravel or pavement or anything like that, we're proposing 2 tracks for the vehicle tire path that will be cobblestone that we can navigate on, will provide us with some stable base so we don't dig up the grass. But the rest of this thing is going to be pervious area entirely. Excuse me, I'm got the man cold, so I'm not sure if I'm going to make it here. But so we are dealing with more pervious area than what we were talking about with the prior alteration. The other thing that this does, although to be frank, it might look a little bit ugly on paper, it pulls this completely out of the 50-foot buffer zone. So there's no more need for a waiver on this. I think overall this is an improvement. I know Jennifer and I had opportunity to kind of go through this via email, because before we proposed anything formally, I thought, gee, this is a little tenuous. I'd like to get her thoughts on it, and I won't speak for her, but I think we both kind of concluded the same thing, like maybe not the prettiest thing in the world on paper, but it looks a lot better as far as the regulation is concerned. That said, I know we still have some comments from Jennifer that we will need to address. I assume that there would be more or different comments. So our focus in getting this back to you folks now was to convey concept, get comments from the commission, get comments from your agent, and then address those as a whole, and hopefully wrap this thing up at the next meeting if possible. So that is the gist of it. I'd be glad to entertain any questions and comments.
So Jennifer, you want to make some comments before I jump in?
Sure, just very quickly, they don't need waivers anymore now that they moved everything to the other side of the house. The items I think we still have left are the sediment control detail, the retaining wall detail. We're going to check the survey on the wetland in the back to make sure the distance was actually the way it looked. If you remember, we went out there and this is a lot closer than the dimensions of the plan.
We pulled tape and things weren't lining up quite right, so we're going to double check a bunch of those flags.
Okay. If you need any soil testing for the infiltration trench, an O&M plan for the infiltration system so that the homeowners know how to maintain it when they move in, stamping the plan. And then just looking at the plan tonight, the only thing I'm wondering about is, would the infiltration system be better in the location of the stockpile area afterward instead of driving on top of it?
Yeah, there's certainly a change we can make. I don't think that there's an issue there. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. That's it for me.
So I think that I think that you've done a great job of getting us out of the no disturb zone, and making this simply about disturbance in the outer 50, right? That's our discussion, is how much disturbance is happening in the outer 50. What mitigations are you putting in place to address impervious surfaces? I think the one thing I'd probably want some details on is the surface around the in-ground pool, what you're going to use, if you're using pavers. I mean, it seems to have a sort of a detail right now of using pavers. That will help us as far as trying to keep the impervious surfaces down if they're installed properly. So I think that there's still some questions here, and that we'll have to talk about all those disturbances in their cumulative effect on the area. But that's where we have to focus the conversation at this point, if that makes sense. I mean, that's what I'm thinking on this. I think, obviously, some of the things that we always talk about in these cases is stormwater management, stormwater runoff. The slope to the back of this property is fairly steep. I'd want to make sure that driveway is manageable. I'm calling it driveway. The cobblestone pathways that you create is manageable in that narrow spot there. That's from my standpoint. So those are my comments. This is a much better alternative than the one that was previously presented to us. We still have work to do on this. I would think if you hit a home run at your next meeting, we might close. But I bet you that we come back with a lot of questions at our next meeting once we get a little bit more detail on some of the stuff.
Sure.
I'm just being honest there, Eric. I mean, you know us, so.
Absolutely. No, and I expected that, and I appreciate your candor, so thank you.
Yeah. Any other comment from the commission?
Sure, this is Carol. I agree with you, Rory, about needing more information about impacts. And I'm looking at the performance standard for the outer 50. Should not adversely affect the form or function of the adjacent bylaw resource area or their inner 50 feet, no disturb zone. And that ties into the burden of proof, right? The regulations are very clear about, I'm looking at 5033. The work shall have no adverse effects on any bylaw wetland values, and further shall contribute to the protection by complying with the performance standard. And then 503B, sorry, 5033B. Oh, sorry, that doesn't apply here because it's not a waiver anymore. So right, you need to meet, to get a permit, you need to meet the burden of proof and meet the performance standards.
Yep.
So the burden of proof requires evidence.
Yep. Agreed. Yep. So I think that's it. Part of it too here is that given that that garage is going into a currently wooded area, and we need to sort of judge that impact. So just be prepared to sort of address that.
Absolutely.
Yep. I would add that while we do have the 50-foot no disturb zone, the entire resource area is presumed significant, more wetland values. So that's your burden.
Understood. So yeah, we certainly have some information that we need to get back to you, and I will plan on addressing the burden of proof and the performance standards individually in a letter back to the board and how we're meeting each one of those as we provide the further detail on the plan that Jen had talked about, and we can certainly take a look at anything we can offer up for additional mitigation and things like that.
Okay, Mike.
I need more info, so I'll be waiting.
Okay. Jennifer?
I'm just making sure we can get that information a week before the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 week
Thank you.
before.
Nothing I can do on the day of.
No, and again, I apologize on the prior hearing getting for you the day of. I did not expect you to see that today.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you.
Anything else from the applicant?
I've got nothing. Nick, I don't know that you have anything that you want to add?
No, I'm good right now. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
So Nick, just because you were on as a panelist here, can you just introduce yourself for the record?
Yep, Nicholas Carroll. I'm the general contractor for the owner.
Thank you. So any public comment? 19 Emily Lane. Seeing none. I'm all about formalities here, Jennifer. That we will continue to November 1st or November 15th.
Let's put it in for November 1st for now. If I can't get Jennifer the information by the week before, we'll continue. I'll send her a formal request to continue the 15th.
Motion to continue 19 Emily Lane to November 1st.
Lundin second.
All right. Cutting off Spadia. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
ADI.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick and Eric. Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Have a
Quick
great night, guys.
question. I'm on for the RCOC for 81 Summer. Do you feel I should stick around for that, or is that pretty well under control?
I have no questions about it.
You have no questions. Jennifer, do you need me for anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, well then I'm going to get out of here.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys, appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Have a good night.
Okay. So next up is 560 Foundry Street. This applicant requested a continuance, so I make a motion to issue a continuance for 560 Foundry to November 1st.
Lundin, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Next up is 58 Mill Street. Again, this is a request for continuance to November 1st. Make a motion to continue 58 Mill Street to November 1st.
Lundin, second.
There we go.
That was Lundin with the second roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Okay, next up is a certificate of compliance for 390 to 394 Foundry Street. This was for a septic system at Easton Housing Authority. Jennifer, you want to?
Yeah, they did something else with the driveway too. The whole
Oh, right.
whole driveway was
Yeah, they
redone.
redid it. Yep.
There's a lot of trash out there.
Yeah, I know.
Seems to be the theme for the night. There's
It was, yes, you and I had a conversation on Thursday or Friday, and I said, oh my God, everyone has trash.
a lot of trash. So that should be cleaned up. I didn't see any note in the engineer's letter about the floodplain compensation that was done. Their letter should, specifically talk about that. The plans don't say as-built plans. I mean, they're dated later, but they really should say as-built, and the sediment controls can be removed.
Okay. The only other thing was that I saw in one of the sanitation fields, there was some sort of material. It was moist and wet, and there was a little running off of it. Did you see that when you were out?
No, I'll go back out and look, but
No, I mean, I'm not even quite sure it's our issue as much as it is. I can tell you where it is. I can share my screen and show you which one I was talking about. So on this area here, let me just add some notation. I can. Like right here, and there's actually a couple of spots where they look like somebody dug holes in a couple other spots. But in this was weeping here. And there was another, it looked like it had been dug up here and here and here. So I don't know what was going on there. It was just a question of whether or not they're done out there. You know what I mean?
yeah, I didn't notice that.
But it could have been something that happened between when you were out there and when I was out there. So.
Yeah.
Certainly, given that we don't know that the floodplain compensation is documented here, I think we've got to continue this anyway. It'll give them an opportunity to clean up when we talk about junk, there's like 3 couches, a box spring mattress.
At least 3 couches.
Yeah. They're over behind, it's in the woods. So, in fact, one configuration I saw looked like they probably used them for a while out there. So,
yep.
My preference, unless there's a difference of opinion here, is to continue this, to allow the applicant to first fix the plans, and secondly is to take care of the problem with the materials, quote unquote materials in the woods.
Sounds good.
Someone want to make a motion?
I heard a motion and a second.
Yeah. Yes. Lundin, second.
We're continuing 390, 394 to November 1st. A roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Bailey, aye.
Move for a 5-minute break, resuming at 8:37.
Caulfield second. Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Bailey, aye.
Turn off
Thank
your
you.
cameras and microphones, please.
Thank you.
Okay, coming back from recess here, it's 8:37. next up is 15 Gyro Lane, certificate of compliance. Jennifer? Continue.
There was a little bit of compost and trash. But two of the family members were home and I pointed out all the areas and explained what the markers and the posts were. I just didn't hear back from them to know that they had finished it today or not. So continue, yeah.
Yeah, just as a reminder, this was a piece of property that Jennifer, I will keep this brief. I know you want me to keep it brief. This property behind this is conservation property, and these two posts here were meant to sort of delineate that we had given the condition for them to stop mowing this. They did not. So I had a long conversation, not a long, I had a long enough conversation with the homeowner on Saturday to reinforce this. This was the nature of my comment to Peter. Like, she wasn't aware of that. She's not the new homeowner. They've owned the property since 2017. So this wasn't like it was told to the old homeowner and then the new homeowner bought the property and didn't know about it. So just, I got that across to her. We also talked about what these posts meant and the fact that they shouldn't be going beyond that as far as mowing is concerned as well. They were right up against the wetland lines. And she understood that, as I said that to her. They had pulled a bunch of debris out of the wetlands.
Okay.
When I was there on Saturday, there was still a lot of materials over here in this section. Was pool stuff that was stored there, some ladders, stuff like that. She said someone was coming back. I don't know if it was today, to finish that off. So I think she intended to reach out to you today. So if she didn't, then we'll continue until we get evidence that that it is substantially in compliance. And we'll talk about the other issue when I get to it during one of your topics. So. Okay, so a motion to continue 15 Gyro Lane to November 1st.
Lundin, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Beatty, aye.
81 Summer Street. This is a certificate of compliance on an older permit for that driveway.
Correct.
Jennifer?
Yep. So the existing driveway is done, according to the plan. So aside from removing that old sediment control, you can issue a certificate for that one.
Any questions from the commission?
No.
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 81 Summer Street on permit number 152-1075 in Easton 833.
Beatty, second.
Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Lundin, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Okay, next up, we did have a couple sets of minutes, but I had suggested a number of changes to them over the weekend. And I know that Tish did send out some new copies at like 4:30 today. I have not looked at them. So I prefer not to sort of review them this hearing if everybody's okay with that. So I appreciate the effort in trying to get them to me. I was tied up all day today. I would prefer to defer those till next meeting. Carol, can you give us an update from the most recent CPC meeting that was, I think, last week?
Sure, it was Thursday night. I can tell you that we approved some minutes from minutes from a executive session, but they were not released. And then we had an executive session, which I can't tell you about.
Okay, well then, okay. Is there anything conservation related on their agenda that you can
That you can talk about.
Yes.
No.
Okay. So I, as your wayfinding working group representative, I attended a meeting a week ago Thursday, on the 7th. This was the first meeting of the group. We were presented some samples of some designs for some sort of quasi logo type signage to use on signage around town related to where Easton Center was, how far something was, just typical sort of road signage. And so we were presented with 3 or 4 different options, and I think there was a general consensus of incorporating something along using one of sort of the Richardson-like arches, like the one that is in the house off Elm Street. There's a nice big arch there, combined with a sort of symbol of shovels and a compass point as well, sort of representing east, because that was our origin of being eastern part of a Taunton property. So that's sort of the consensus of the direction that we're heading in. We haven't decided on anything yet. The next meeting is coming up next week sometime. I think they haven't set the date yet, but it's next week sometime.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it. Environmental planner update.
I don't have it on me, but if you want to put the PDF on there, that might be helpful. I just wanted to make a note that of all the site inspections that I've been doing in the last almost 3 months, most people have no idea what that post is or the medallion. The message isn't getting across the way you're intending it. So maybe we can take another look at it. And so I gave you a PDF with a few photos that show, people really aren't getting it. It's just in the middle of the yard. Now they're mowing behind it and putting stuff there, or they're, putting some landscaping behind it, or they're too low in the ground and the grass is growing up over it and people just don't see it, and nobody knows what the medallion is. So just the suggestion below is this is an aluminum marker. It's about 6 inches that we were using in Norton, and it says, wetland buffer, do not disturb. There's the phone number to the Conservation Commission. So if people do see it and have a question, they can call us and ask us about it. That has actually worked out pretty well in Norton. Maybe we could consider using a marker more like that than the little medallion. People just don't know what that means.
They absolutely 100% have no idea what it means. Yeah, I have not walked into one person that doesn't ask me, what are those things? and I spend a lot of time in these backyards, and I knock on every door, so when they see the guy in the backyard in his orange vest, they don't wonder what's going on, and a lot of them will come out and ask me questions, and absolutely 100% of the time they have no idea what's with me.
Yeah, so maybe we can take a look at doing that kind of a marker.
Yeah, it's interesting over at the 390, and I know they have other problems there, but the 390, 394 Foundry Street, the signs they put up about that around the wetlands are like this. I mean, they have an animal standing in wetlands, long-legged bird like that, and
it's a very tall sign.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, it could have been shorter, but still, I did like that there was no question about what was going on there.
Yes.
It was clear, and it was a good notice. It could have been a little shorter, but
the idea was better.
Correct, it was better.
Yeah. So for all projects, we are doing pre-construction meetings now, and I require the homeowner to be there as well as the contractor.
Right.
That's another chance for a little bit of public outreach and education.
Yeah, I think that the other thing that I want to comment on was that I don't know, and this was part of the challenge that we started suggesting that especially with Collins, who does so many of these, that they use concrete as well as not just hammering these into the ground.
Oh,
Um,
yes, it should be in concrete, yeah.
I know they weren't doing it though. They were just pounding them into ground to refusal and then, cutting them off at the top while it was pounded in the ground. And so people would just wiggle it and pull it out.
Yes.
And I
Or
think that,
just balls over time.
yeah, they're wiggling it and pulling it out. Okay, because I will tell you that I've had a homeowner ask me, I asked the guy if I could take him out, and one guy said I could, and the other guy said, yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. So they're getting sort of mixed signals from the contractors about, oh yeah, as soon as they come by and look at it, you can take them out, and so I think we have to sort of get, into their heads that this is a permanent marker, type of thing. So, but
The other option, the other photo on the bottom is in Norton, we had required post and rail fence.
yeah, we've done that on certain projects where we
Okay.
really wanted a delineation. Andrea was a big fan of post and rail fences. I mean, we probably did that at least a half a dozen times.
A little more difficult to mow.
Exactly.
Because you keep hitting it.
It takes a lot to
Versus
get over
Going
that.
in between the posts and around them.
Yeah,
Just a thought, but if certainly the marker itself would make a big difference. And I did call Jake or email Jacob Driscoll and say, hey, how many more of those markers do you have? Don't order any more, please. Just in case we move to a different system. And so they have about 60 or 70 left. So if this is something that we can phase in instead, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of I love having the number on there because then they know what to do with it. Like even if they don't know what it means, there's a number on here. Let me call and figure out what the number.
Yeah, what is this thing? What does this mean?
Or what am I supposed to do? Can I get rid of this, or who do I have to talk to?
It makes people aware that it's a conservation commission or environmental planner. People don't even know. I feel like I say stuff sometimes like, what? So
yeah.
it's good.
I'm really glad we're talking about this because our permanent markers, I think personally, are a joke. They're not permanent. And I think that even though a fence isn't permanent, it's much more obvious. And a fence is a communication tool. A tool. I know in Rockport, Mass, their permanent markers are granite posts. I don't know if it's 4x4 or 5x5, but that's kind of permanent. So I would like us.
Kind of expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, the post and rail fence, it looks pretty rustic. It sort of fits in with the area. It's not that expensive compared to concrete bounds or granite posts and stuff like that. So we're trying to balance the the cost of putting that in with whatever project they're doing and the filing fees that they're doing.
Sure.
Yeah,
Or you could just start for something
I
like
think-
bigger and harder, Carol. Like just something that they can't mow into, I guess. Is that why you wanted to granite?
Well, I mean, you can do in Rockport, you can do a post or you can do a rock. So a line of rocks that are just pretty much for most homeowners and most mowing crews, they're immovable objects. And I like the fence idea. I think it's a really visual. It's you can see through it.
You can do the combination of both, right? You can do some posts in some spots and then the fence, like the fence along that back property line probably would be appropriate, and then markers along the side. You can do a combination so that it's not really burdensome.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to find the balance between having something more substantial, which I think we all want, with just moderating the out-of-pocket cost to the applicant.
Yeah.
Maybe we can find something that works both ways. I wouldn't want the applicant to have another couple $1,000 for having to put in 200 feet of split rail fence. So
Yes.
Right.
that's my only concern. So
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
to put it in 50 feet or something is a little bit more reasonable.
Yeah, me too. And then we also have to be looking out for the public's interest and cumulative impacts if people are constantly disregarding the markers that we have. If we help them comply, I think that's a benefit to the public.
Yep. Yeah, I'm in favor of going down a different road here for sure. So
Okay. And We used Wetland Protection Fund to buy the markers and then we just give them to people in Norton. So if that's acceptable to you, then I think you have plenty of money in Wetland Protection Fund to do that.
Yeah, I mean, are we talking about they cost like $5 each or something?
I don't think it's not that much because you buy them in a stack of 500.
Yeah, no, I'm just asking. I'm just trying to get some sense of, you know.
I want to say it was 100. I'd have to look at an old bill
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
get another estimate for
You
you.
don't have to. I'm just looking for order of magnitude. That's all. You know, so I mean, if it's, you know, $1 a piece, I'm perfectly fine with giving them away. So that's all. Yes. Do you need us to authorize that? Okay,
You're in agreement. We're good.
we're in agreement. I think we're in agreement.
Oh, we're good.
It sounded like it.
So we just want to ratify some of the discussions we held in 10.4, which we brought up as part of our discussion under any other item.
Yep, it's just so it's on the agenda per open meeting law that we did discuss it at the last meeting. Keachfield was the Mass Trails grant and the permit was not required for wetland permits for the boardwalk. And then someone had asked the status of Wheaton Farm barn repairs. Was that Carol or Rory?
That was,
Carol.
Carol, yeah. So we met today with Stephanie and Wayne, and we're trying to come up with the bid documents for that.
Great.
perfect. Thank you.
So do you need us to do anything? Are we good? Okay. Just two other minor issues are just sort of informational in nature. First is that the Easton Housing Authority is having, let's see, get up the document here. Easton Housing, Affordable Housing Trust is having a presentation on the 5-year housing production plan, and hosting public input via Zoom at 6:30 on this Wednesday, October 20th. So if you're interested, please seek that out. I think you have to pre-register through through a link. So if anybody wants it, they can reach out to me or Jennifer, and we'll be happy to forward that.
October 12th?
It's October 20th.
Oh, 20.
Wednesday, October 20th at 6:30 p.m. The other issue I just wanted to remind people on is that the MACC virtual conference starts this week. It's not too late to jump in and register for programs if you're interested. And of course, those would be, if you're a commissioner, those would be covered by the commission.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else before we?
Yes, I have something. It's getting to be that season where people and their landscape vendors are doing cleanups and moving leaves around their yards and ornamental beds. And I wonder if we could ratify us talking about this next week. But if, in the meantime, could we do some kind of outreach to, there are different levels of outreach we could do. I mean, it's a best practice for people to leave their leaves on their property. But I would at least like to encourage people to not dump their materials in wetlands, or like the vernal pool at the end of my street, because there is a lot of that happens in that vernal pool. People come from outside our neighborhood to dump debris in that vernal pool. I should say right now it's a PVP, not a VP, but it functions as a vernal pool. So what could we do to help remind people?
So I actually saw a Facebook post, it might have even been from the Garden Club this week, sort of along those same lines. And I'm sure that the Green Communities Committee they've been very much on sort of lawn maintenance and things along those lines as well. I think trying to sort of communicate that, I think that I wish we had sort of thought about this a month or two ago, we could have been better prepared to sort of, reach out to all the community aspects, because I think, utilizing things like this on social media is probably the most effective way to go, because it has a much greater reach and probably reaches hundreds of people as opposed to 15, and the cost of doing so is minimal other than time. So I don't know if there's an opportunity for us to make utilize a similar post like was done on the Easton Garden Club. We could take that post in and of itself and sort of repost that from the town website or the town Facebook page or whatnot. I don't know. These it's good questions. I just wish I had more preparation to sort of, do some research into what avenues we have in front of us. At some point, if people want to have the time to do this, if we wanted to set up our own, Facebook page for the Eastern Conservation Commission, where we routinely posted something once a week about something along those lines, that might be a good way to do it, or Twitter, or whatever we can do. I don't know how to even think about utilizing anything along the lines of the Easton Discover app. I don't know if there's ways to sort of put a link to the Conservation Commission in there that sort of sends them to a page with all these hints about good things to do. I think that those type of things. And the other thing is, there is, and I've had some outreach from the Green Communities Committee, and I've actually tried to hook them up with the Garden Club as well. And I think probably between the three of us, there's probably a lot of like-mindedness about some of these conservation efforts related to water quality and landscaping and pesticide and herbicide control, and things along those lines. If you haven't been keeping up to date on what the Green Communities Committee is doing, I suggest that you go and read their minutes and check their agendas. They've been doing things that are very much related to the topic that we're talking about right now. And I know that they actually had they're trying to change their charge a little bit to and add things to it that aren't in their initial charge to get them more focused in on some of these conservation efforts that are outside the original intent of the Green Communities Committee.
Right, those are some great ideas. In fact, I believe that our commission has a Facebook page.
Oh my.
And who knows who the admin is? No idea. But I think, maybe I guess I'm requesting that we agree that I will see if I can share the Garden Club post to our Concom, page, and then share that to the town page. I don't know if the public can post to the town page.
I mean, I don't think you can. So I think it's the town would have to post something. So
Right.
it's not like a group. It's more of a page where only the page sort of.
Right. So from the Concom page, maybe it could get shared to Easton What's Up, Easton Moms, Easton Echo Moms. There's a whole bunch of.
Yeah, I am not in the Easton Moms group.
I'm not on Facebook.
Why not?
So, got me.
I'm not on Facebook.
I haven't been on social media in a long time.
I mean, I
Missing
have
anything.
I don't want
Instagram,
to
but
know.
yeah.
Well, the Foxborough Conservation Commission posts frequently. I work at one of their conservation lands, and they post really frequently. And that's another source of posts that we could share.
Do they have a millennial they can send along with it? I'm not on Facebook, and
Sorry, I can't help
it
it.
could chew up a lot of our time.
So that's the only concern that I have, and then I think that we'd have to agree as a commission that one of us would sort of spearhead this and get things aligned. I think if we wanted to make a single post right now, we could probably through the town website, not through the Easton Concom page, because I'm not sure who actually has the admin rights to that. We'd probably reach out to Mike Blanchard and just say, we'd like to post this just as a reminder to the townspeople that fall is here, clean up your yards, but do it this way. type
Right.
of thing. I would be in favor of that. As I said, the post by the garden club was very concise, but also very good information. So I'm in favor of that, at least in the short term to address this issue. I think that having something along the lines of being able to post something on a regular basis, whether it be weekly, I think that, for somebody like, I wouldn't want to put it on Jennifer's plate because she obviously doesn't use Facebook. So,
We use Facebook, but we had an Instagram page,
right.
which is a little easier because it's just, here's the pretty picture. It's not a whole bunch of comments on it afterward.
Right. So, similar thing, I wouldn't mind, they're two different audiences, to be honest. Doing them in both places, and there's actually functionality now between the two that you could actually post to both places at the same time without any additional effort. I mean, when you post to Instagram, it actually says, "Do you want to post to your Facebook page too?"
Well, if it had a Facebook page, it would.
We could link an Easton Concom IG page.
Obviously, Rory, you are the subject matter.
Yeah, he's good at this.
expert.
You know who's spearheading.
Less than zero time to do this. So remember, I'm the one who did the original Easton Garden Club website. So
Oh, I didn't know.
yeah. Well, the things you know.
Nice job.
Okay, so
How can we get to Mike and make that post?
Me?
No,
Oh,
Mike
Mike.
Blanchard?
Oh.
yeah, he's the assistant town administrator.
Right. So,
Jennifer, can you just have somebody, you or Tish, reach out to him?
great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
Lundin second,
Roll call vote, Paul aye.
Lundin aye.
ADI.
Okay, for the record, Jen, we would have been about 8:15 if we had started on time. I just want you to know. We're getting there. Okay.
So close.
We're getting there.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and I really appreciate everybody's patience for hanging in. So thank you.
Good night.
Bye, guys.